Hi everyone, my name's PK, and here I have Deva Yerrakalva, who is a property investor. She has volunteered to share with us her time, which I'm very grateful for. She's not a client of mine, so like, why am I doing this episode? The reason is because I'm just trying to get more and more and more real people, real investors with real stories, hardships, challenges, successes, everything to serve to inspire you guys, to serve to educate you guys, and also serve to give you the realization of what it takes to be a long-term property investor. Because most people on most YouTube channels, most podcasts, most Facebook groups only interview people that have something to sell you, right? They share their journey. They're actually a buyer's agent. They share their journey. They're really a mortgage broker. They share their journey. They're really accountants. But when you have people like amazing people like Diva, who really, there's no agenda, there's no motive, there's no innuendo, then I feel that we can learn so much more because it's really honest and authentic. So thank you so much for making time.
No, thanks, PK, for having me.
Welcome to the Oz Property Investment Mastery Podcast. My name's PK, and I help busy people build passive income by buying top 5% growth and cash flow property and build a portfolio using data without wasting months doing research, spending weekends at inspection or catching flights, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents every single time. So if you're confused, lack confidence, and just overwhelmed with all the information and marketing misinformation available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you. So, I mean, I know that we've exchanged messages a few times, and I'm really grateful for you to come on, and we can talk about mindset. We can talk about how you started your property investing as a solo mother of two children. You work in healthcare. Like, there's so many things that we can talk about, but maybe just from the start, because I think you started your property investing when you were already a solo mom or a single mom. Why are you a property investor?
Yeah, that's a good question because it seems like a risky thing to do, especially if you're on your own. Um, so so essentially I was sort of found myself on my own in 2018. And so that's actually quite frightening because like you then become solely responsible for the finances of your house and for your kids as well. So and there was this big mortgage on the house that I was in. So I basically I just really worked really hard to try and pay that mortgage down. And at that time, my son, who's the older child, he was going to high school. We had to move into the city. And so obviously I know that you get a lot less for the dollar in close to the city. So I know we'd have to downsize. But I didn't want to have a mortgage. I think the security thing was really important to me. And obviously I know now that it's not such a big deal. But for me, like kind of I needed that security. So I basically became mortgage free January 2021. And the plan was to become mortgage free and then invest. That was my plan. And yeah, I started investing. Property investing, not shares or anything else. I mean, I do a bit of that now, but it was definitely property investing for me, 100%.
Right. And was that hard for you? Because like I don't know, different people are different, but were you already across the finances in your whole household previous to becoming on your own, or did you have to like learn financial literacy? Because you're a healthcare worker, so
Yes,
for a lot of
yeah.
healthcare workers, you guys are really good at like, I don't know, I'm being
Yeah.
facetious, like biology and stuff, but like not so much the numbers.
I was managing most of the finances, but I wasn't the breadwinner in the house. Um, so I think that bit I've never really, since my kids were born, I haven't really worked full time. So I've never really to be in that sort of position. Um, but yeah, it was that bit that was tricky, for sure. And then also I think it just felt immensely, I felt like just the immense weight of responsibility. for the money side of things. When you've got the second person, there's always someone to bounce out ideas off and like manage, like at least there's a second source of income, I guess, or at least someone to talk about things with.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that was probably the most difficult thing. And obviously, like, if I didn't go to work, I don't get paid. So I don't get sick pay or annual leave or anything like that. So yeah. So obviously I had to keep healthy and look after my mental health for myself and my kids, really. Which I know we've
Yeah.
digressed off the finances, but
No,
yeah.
I think this is a really important discussion because yeah, I think it all starts with obviously mental health and physical health. And if something like that happens, like a separation or a divorce or something like that, then oftentimes things go downhill just because you lose control of your own life. And obviously retaining control of yourself
Yes.
starts in the mind or starts in the head. So I think that's a really important conversation to have. So like post all of that occurring, so you moved in closer to the city. Obviously you weren't the breadwinner of the house as you'd said previously. Now you are. Was there like a a switch in your head that just like an adrenaline rush almost that kind of said, okay, well, now I need to step up my game and property is going to be it. And that's going to be the vehicle by which I and my kids get ahead or like, how did you get into property specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there was definitely the adrenaline kind of, okay, let's push this thing forward. Um, and for some reason, I had it in my head at that time, and that's probably because I was on my own, that I wanted to be mortgage free first before I pushed to property investing. Um, Obviously, in hindsight, I know that that's not necessarily, like, for other people, that's necessarily the route. But for me, it was meant for me having that backup that, okay, no one can take my house from me,
Hmm.
my home, the roof over my head. Everything else is fine. And my car's owned outright, so I've got transport, I've got a place to live, and then for me, yeah, it was just property made sense. Australian property made huge amounts of sense to me. I think we're so lucky in this country. I'm from the UK, and so I I think the property market over there is quite different to here. The opportunities are just like they're so good over here. Like, and as you say in your podcast, like 15,000 suburbs that to choose from. Like, such diversity and different states, and it's just the numbers made sense. It's just taking that first leap
Yeah.
when you're by yourself. So yeah, yeah, I mean, property, the numbers made sense. I felt comfortable with doing it. It was just nervous to do the first one. After you get your first one out the way, it's all good.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on this because I'm not terribly educated on the subject. But you said that there's far more opportunity in Australia
Yeah,
versus the UK. Like I've lived in the UK as well. I mean, I wasn't a property owner in the
yeah.
UK, but are you making that statement from the perspective of it's cheaper here, or there are cheaper areas than like London, or like could you just expand upon that? Because oftentimes people
Yeah.
think of Australians like, oh, Sydney's the most expensive city in the world on a
Oh, yeah.
affordability basis. It's the hardest to start property investing, but you're saying the opposite?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, and I'm not a blue chip investor by any at all.
Yeah,
Like, none of my properties are expensive at all.
neither.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So like that's why I relate to you and your community. But like, yeah, for instance, the pound is like half of the dollar, for instance, and the incentives to be a property investor in Australia are just so good. Like my sister in the UK, she invests in property, but she kind of flips them more because, like, I suppose holding them, the incentives to hold them aren't there, in terms of, I suppose, gearing. The obvious one is gearing and just all the things that you can, I suppose, claim back on tax. Um, and that's probably the big one, I think. And just that the laws at the moment are quite, I think, favourable to us, and I think they're favourable to tenants as well. Like, I look after all my tenants,
Mm.
but I think it's just so incentivized here, and I think it's because of lack of public housing here, whereas the UK, there's lots of public housing, but they've got lots of other issues going on that
Right.
I won't elaborate on.
Sure. Sure. I'm sure there's a reason you moved initially in the
Yeah.
first place from the UK.
Yeah.
And so how many do you have? Like, how many properties do you have at the moment?
I have 3 properties at the moment.
Okay.
I have stopped currently because I'm renovating my house. So, yeah, so but I'll plan to sort of buy more next year. That's the plan.
Right. And do you mind sharing where you bought them?
Yeah, sure. So the first one I bought, so I live in Newcastle.
Mhm.
The first one I bought was in the Hunter Valley. Settled in July 2021. Um, the second one I bought in Queensland, in Kalanga, sort of about 30, 40 minutes from the CBD. And the third one I bought in Mandurah, near Perth. Yeah, and that was last year as well. So, and I think they've all done well. Maybe
Nice.
not by everybody else's standards, but I think they've all, I could see the equity growth in all of them. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
sure.
sure.
That's great to hear. And you're a healthcare worker on a single income, I would assume. So how are you managing the properties from a cash flow perspective? Are they costing you a ton to hold, or are they almost neutral? What's the sort of situation there?
So again, sort of Pika, I could have gone into highly negatively geared one property, maybe bought one in Sydney for
Mhm.
the price of the 3, but it would have costed me a lot to hold it, and I probably could have afforded it. I just didn't. I didn't see that. So from the get go, all my properties had to hold themselves, or pretty much hold themselves. So yeah, they haven't really costed me anything really to hold, or not much really, to hold at all. The rents pretty much cover um, the loans on them, property managers' fees. I've got great property managers now. They're all really good, and no problem tenants so far. So that's
Good.
all been good.
That's good to hear, because sometimes we think that interest rates were low, now they're high. People who have bought and built a portfolio quickly, like yourselves, 3 properties since 2020 or 2021, I think you said. People often think that, all those must be costing a bomb now because you didn't anticipate interest rate rises. But I'm glad to hear that you actually invested prudently and didn't buy those properties that cost $30,000 a year to hold in blue chip Melbourne or Sydney. So that's very smart going. And were there, like, any challenges that you experienced throughout your journey? I mean, you're a fairly new property investor almost, if that's fair
Yeah,
to say, but
yeah, yeah.
what was, like, the biggest challenge or challenges that you faced so far?
I think the biggest challenge is just, I suppose, trusting people. And so the first one, actually, the property manager wasn't doing a very good job. So I rang around and I found a really good property manager, and she's been managing it fantastically. But just I suppose the challenges are just keeping in touch with your property managers, managing your asset managers. That's what I call the property managers, because they are managing your assets. Um, and sort of just touching base with them, because it is a business. It's not a hobby at all. So in regards to, like, you have your day job, you have your parenting, and then you've got your properties. You still need to kind of, um, you have to be in touch with all elements of that, the insurances and the bills, and obviously the property manager should be able to take care of that. And
Yeah.
then at tax time, just making sure it's all ready for your accountant. And yeah, I just prepared stuff for my accountant. I've just, like, spent hours just
The
making sure it was all
dreaded
ready, because
tax
there's,
time, right? It's the
yeah,
worst time of the
it's
year.
the worst time. And I was gonna say, yeah, and now there's like 3 now, so, like, I'm just getting it all ready for her. But obviously after that, it should be smooth sailing for the future
Yeah.
years. So, like, yeah, it's just the extra admin, paperwork, and keeping in touch with extra people.
How long does that
Um,
take though? Because I mean, you're probably not got oodles of spare time, but, like, how
no,
how
no.
much time would you spend, maybe, I don't know, a
Oh,
month on property?
oh, it wouldn't be much. It's just remembering to do it, I think. And I just like, oh, I need to touch base with my property manager just to make sure. Oh, how's it going?
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm getting new tenants in for the WA one, and she sent me a nice little video just saying, and she's at the property now because obviously I'm all the way over here. She always sends me videos from the property and just shows me how it is, and it's nice. It's nice. I wouldn't be able to do that here. I would not do that myself.
No,
So like,
no
yeah,
way. No way.
yeah.
Does investing and managing your properties yourself, like as in like not having a property manager, is whoever can do that successfully, like hats off to them, but that's not really a recommended option. Certainly not from me. A property
No,
manager is, I think, the most important person or component of your team. Even, I mean, everyone has a critical role to play, but property managers are like really critical and like the linchpins of any large, scaled property portfolio. So I think I completely agree with that. And just out of curiosity, like, I don't know how old your kids are. I think you have two. You
yes,
said
yeah, I've got two. Yeah,
two.
yeah.
How old are they?
So my son's just turned 15 and my daughter's just turned 13.
Okay,
So
okay. So
yeah,
they're
yeah,
kind of like the sort of teenage years.
they are.
Do they know that their mother is a property
Property
investor? Like, are
investor.
they into it?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I talk about investing with them a lot.
That is so good.
I make sure it's an important discussion with them, and obviously so they can feel empowered when their time comes, and that they see that I'm a single brown Indian origin woman doing it for myself as well.
Mm.
Sounds cliched. Didn't want to I don't want to sort of play, oh, so I'm an ethnic minority and I'm on my
The
own and
victim
stuff. But
card and all that sort of thing, right?
exactly right. Like it's
Yeah.
not with my personality, but I just want them to see it and immerse it and then decide for themselves if that's what they want to do. But we talk about investing a lot,
Yeah.
probably annoyingly so.
No, that's, I mean,
Um,
I mean, my mother is fantastic, but I wish I had more of that growing up because oftentimes you don't think about money or finances unless you have to think about them, and you don't talk to your
True.
kids about it unless you have to talk to your kids about it. So even like right now,
Yes.
my son's only almost 5, and he always
Oh,
asks
yeah.
for stuff, and I'm like, well, you got your piggy bank. Are you gonna probably, they may understand the gravitas of what you're doing for them right now, or
Yeah.
they may not, but at least in
Yeah.
the future they will, because they'll be like, well, my mom hustled, and
Yeah.
now we have an abundant life because of what she did when I was 13, when I was 15.
Yeah, exactly right. And what I was going to say was, yeah, like with your parents, my parents, we with the immigrant mentality of we don't have much at all. We don't talk about money, or it's scrimp and save, scrimp and save. It's always
Mm,
scarce,
mm.
and fear. And I'm like, no, I don't want fear to be the conversation now. I want to like, let's take a risk. Let's be abundant. Let's kind of. It sounds all very airy fairy, but it's kind of like, yeah, let's just try it and see. And I've tried it, and I can prove I pulled the equity out of my first property and used it to buy the third property. So yeah, I could see it and envision it for myself. So
So
yeah,
scarcity mindset, Diva, is like, obviously, as you know, it's where you think that it's always a competition. If other people have a level of resources, that means that that is being taken away from me, or for me to get resources is always going to be a challenge, and that means other people are going to have resources taken away from them. It's like, there's a scarce amount of resources in the world, and obviously abundant mindset is like everyone else can have everything, I can have everything. Money is not a challenge. To earn money is not a challenge. To be abundant is not a challenge. To spend is fine because I'll always earn more than I'll ever spend. Like, this is the kind of mindset of those who are financially successful. It seems to me that, I mean, you're saying it yourself, that you are quite abundant in your mentality and mindset. Is that natural for you? I mean, despite being of kind of the immigrant parents that we're both from, did you always have this kind of mentality, or was the separation kind of the trigger for you to force this mentality? I shouldn't say force, but like transition, or
yeah,
how are you thinking like this? And the reason I'm asking this question is because there will literally be thousands of people who listen to this podcast, and of those, there'll probably be 50% who get everything that you're saying, who are nodding along, but then never actually take any action. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think I was of the scarcity mindset up until sometimes life forces you into certain positions and you can choose one of two routes. You can either choose to continue to be a victim and a product of those circumstances, or you choose to thrive and you consciously make that decision to do so, which takes a lot of inner work, meditation, personal growth. That takes time to so yeah, so I would say that, so be finding myself on my own, maybe through that circumstance has sort of pushed me into this way. And actually I cut out all the outside noise of someone else saying maybe I couldn't do it, to I've told myself I can do it. Because I suppose if I mention, I've never really had as much autonomy, and definitely not as much financial autonomy growing up or while married as I do now. So that has given me the confidence to go, I'm going to push for these decisions. And, you know, when COVID happened, I thought, well, one of the worst things you can go through has happened. So, you know, bring it on, bring on everything. So let's just do it. You're a bit more likely to take a risk if you've been through something as bad as that. You're like, if I can push through this, and look, if my property doesn't grow, so what? That's not the terrible end of the world. So there are certain events that define your life, I suppose, and that was one of them. But yeah, look, you put two people in that circumstance, they'll react differently to that situation. Always be fearful. I mean, they even teach in my kids' school about growth and abundance mindset versus the scarcity thing you said, because my kids sort of went, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we already got taught that in school.
Oh, no way.
And I'm like, so like what you were saying and what I'm saying, they're like, oh yeah, cool. We've been taught that. I'm like, okay, that's great. Are you actually absorbing that? Is that a abstract concept to you? Are you actually, you know, are you actually pushing that out there? Time will tell. We'll see. I've diverted right off the topic.
No, I love it. I didn't know that they taught this at school. Yeah, I thought
No. Nowadays it's like, yeah, it's
that's
apparently it's
good.
been taught. Yeah.
That's good to hear. I completely agree. I mean, sometimes you almost, not that we ever want challenges, but the more challenges you face, you actually find that human beings are very resilient and that we
Yeah.
overcome those challenges. And every time there's like a mountain that we think that we couldn't climb, and we do climb it because of just dire necessity, that gives us so much more confidence that when an even bigger mountain presents itself, we know that we can conquer it, even though it's bigger than the previous challenge or mountain that we climbed. It's like we have that mental fortitude. And so I think it's like, I mean, no one wishes negative things to happen, but the more negative things that do happen, I feel people become a stronger mentally for it. And some of the best, not just property investors, some of the most abundant people in the world are those who have experienced such hardship, and they look back on that not thinking of it as something that they would ever want to change because it's made them who they are today. So I think anyone who's watching or listening or consuming this content right now, don't be afraid. Just like Deva was saying, don't be afraid of like, oh, hey, I mean, not that I want this to happen. Don't be afraid of like, property not growing, for example. Like everything is genuinely a learning opportunity. I know it sounds a bit like woo-woo and everything like that, but this is the kind of mindset that we have to adopt if we're truly going to build six-figure passive incomes or truly going to improve our net wealth well into the seven figures. This is how people like that think. And if I or you, or if we don't think this way, then we're never going to get there. All right. So it's all part of the process. And I think it's great that you brought it up. And in terms of like your future plans, like you said you're kind of in the pause period at the moment.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
your goal long term, and what is your strategy or like bite-sized plans to get there?
So buy more properties. Obviously once I've done my reno, which is another challenge in itself, let me tell you right now.
That you're
But
doing that on your own place where you live?
yes, yeah, where I live. Yeah, that's right. And yeah, buy more properties. So I do some volunteering now and again. So that's probably going to be a bigger part of my life as time goes on. I do love the job that I do, so I'm not doing it to try and retire early. I'll probably be always working part-time, to be honest. If only to stave away dementia, perhaps. But like
You retire,
I'll
you expire. That's my philosophy.
yeah,
Never
exactly.
retire.
Exactly. Like I love what I do. I love I just like it at the moment. So yeah, and just to do more volunteering, more philanthropy. On a very superficial note, I travel, so I'd like to maybe on a superficial note be able to fly business class wherever I want to go in the future, and not have to pay for my kids to
Yeah.
fly business class. Because we just came back from Europe to see my family and obviously 3 tickets.
Yeah.
So like yeah, but yeah, I'd like to do that on a superficial note and just like buy nice things for myself. Um, so there's a sort of a balance between financial anorexia and sort of enjoying the abundance.
Mm,
So I'm kind of better now with that balance. Before I would be like sacrifice, sacrifice,
mhm.
and like now I'm sacrificing at the moment for this reno. But I know that there'll be an end to this, and I'll go back to the enjoying the fruits of my labor type thing.
Yeah.
So I think the comment you made at the meetup about sort of, not buying the ice cream, I'm completely like that. I completely resonated with that because I'm like, that's me. Would I need to do that? I will absolutely do that. Will not
Yeah.
spend anything because I know there's a big expense coming. So like I
Yeah.
know, okay, I think it's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I've been brought up, or I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, just for people who don't know as well, we had this live member, not member, just a public meetup for my community in Sydney, and like more than 1,100 people came. And I made this comment of how when I first started property, when I came home from work, like I was an investment banker making a pretty okay money, I still would, I like that term you use, financial anorexia. I still wouldn't buy ice cream like at the 7-Eleven just to save every dollar. And not that I recommend that or anything like that for everyone. But there's a certain enjoyment in the hustle. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not like anorexia in the sense that it's unhealthy, but
Yeah.
there's an enjoyment in the hustle if you have a goal and if you know that the hustle is going to get you to that goal. And whatever it is, like it's fine if it's to travel business class. Like we need to reward ourselves. It's not you're not a bad human being for wanting like the finer things in life,
Oh,
right? But that I shouldn't say I miss it, but even now when I'm not having to like forego the ice cream, so to speak, um, I always try to remain in that mindset, like day one mindset. Like when you start a company, like a startup, whatever you do on day one, that is the mindset you should have at day 5, day 10, year 1, year 10, year 20, because that is what got you that success, that mindset. And I think
yeah.
that hustle is actually where the enjoyment is. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
100%.
paradoxical.
It's 100% true, PK. When I became mortgage free and I was property investing, it's almost like this, and I'll say this very tentatively, boredom set in. Um, and I was like, well, I was going to renovate my place, and now the renovation's now the next thing that I'm hustling for.
Mhm.
And then I'll be back to property investing again. It's almost like I'm a very goal orientated person, as I don't know, I'm sure you are, but if I have that goal, I'm hustling for it, and it's addictive. It's almost addictive having
Definitely.
that goal.
It
But
is
anyway,
definitely addictive. No, it sounds like you're setting a fantastic example for your kids, which is obviously like the most important thing in anyone's life who's a parent. You start leading at home, and and it's great. I mean, I think a lot of people get a lot of benefit from hearing your story as well. For anyone who's out there, Deva, who maybe is a wife or a mother or a single mother, and they've had to work on their mindset. They've had to really become the breadwinners, or they've had to be the spearhead to think about the financial future of their family. Is there any advice that you could give people or women in that sort of archetype from your own experience that will help them?
um, I think don't be scared by it because I think a lot of the content I absorbed was by men and talking, but I wasn't scared of that necessarily, because the end goal is benefit for yourself and by default your family members. So just think of the end product. Think of the financial autonomy that you'll get from this. That is the sweetest taste of every day, like, or most days I'm like, I've got the big rocks in the jar. I've got the 3 investments on the side. And I wanted to do that before I started changing my own house, because I know they're ticking away. I'm like, that's just it's the best feeling that you've invested in your future. No one ever talks to you about that at school. No one teaches that at school. Parents probably don't even teach you. Um, you read it in a book and it's abstract, but when you live that, it's just the most amazing feeling. It's better than, and I feel it's better than a nice meal or even a nice flight. Or traveling is great, but knowing every day when I'm traveling, I know that these properties are in there, just sitting there, and taking away. It's like you just have to take that first step, and I I I think you just have to bite the bullet and do it. It's like you just almost have to close your eyes and do it, because and then once you've done the first one, the second, the third, whatever will get easier and easier. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I could probably tell people. You can read about it, you can listen to content all day long, but really you just have to take that first step. And look, I'm proof, and the thousands of people that you've interviewed, it's proof. It's happened for regular people.
Regular
So
people.
yeah, yeah,
No, I think you can talk about all of the strategy and tactics and techniques and methodologies till the cows come home. But when you hear like folks like yourself, like just say it in simple words and in very in a manner which is imbued with experience because you've done it, then I think that oftentimes just hits home for people. So that's really the purpose of this episode, and just trying to elevate you and bring your story out, because I know it will benefit so many of thousands of people out there. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you making time. And like I said at the start, like I think just communicating with people who have been there and done that, not necessarily paying them, not necessarily like going to the experts, not necessarily coming to me, but like, we experienced in that community meetup last Tuesday, just being with other people of the same wavelength that are trying to do what you're trying to do. That kind of motivation that you get from those experiences, even if it's just one conversation or one episode or podcast like this, that can just nudge you in the right direction and forever change the financial trajectory and destination of your life in 10, 20, 30 years. So it's so good that folks like you and Diva are so, willing to share your story and how you got there. So thank you so much.
yeah. No, thanks, PK. I just want to say, like, about the meetup. I think I drove from Newcastle on that day because I think more than probably what you were going to say, I just wanted to be in that sort of space around so many people who were on a similar journey, and the energy in the room was like fantastic. The vibe was fantastic. I met quite a few people and we heard each other's stories. And I think if nothing else, I'm not a networker. I'm not naturally an extrovert or a networker, but I just interacted with so many people, and it was a really safe space for us all to talk about our journeys, and we weren't judged. And I think that was an amazing. So if nothing else, that's what that created. And so, like, yeah, that was just, yeah. Thanks for organizing that.
No, thank you for driving. I don't know, what is it, 2 hours or whatever?
2 hours, yeah, yeah, 2 hours, 4 hours
2 hours
round
one
trip.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was worth it. I think. Yeah, it was definitely worth it. Yeah,
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. And it was great to see you there, and great to see so many other people there, clients or not clients. I think we're all on this journey together, whether you're doing like a course or using a different professional or whatever, we're all on the same journey. So it's always good to connect in that way. So guys, I will share this on my podcast and other platforms, and in the Facebook group, if Diva allows me, I'll tag her,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you
Cool.
guys can
Yeah,
definitely get in touch with her, or at least leave questions or comments. on the post, and she's a super nice person, as you can tell. And yeah, it's just about helping each other. Thank you once again.
Thanks, PK. Thank you.